On this Wednesday night, we talk with Venezuela's Juan Guaido. You're not afraid?
No, absolutely.
Why the would-be president thinks he hasn't been arrested yet. How he plans to get humanitarian aid across the border. Inside of Venezuela, unclear if it's heading towards war or peace.
Hello.
Hello.
In front of a packed Edmonton audience, our national conversation with Alberta Premier Rachel Notley. Pipelines, transfer payments, and standing up to Ottawa.
Spears just came into the circle and started punching.
And 15 university hockey players and 2 coaches suspended after an ugly brawl. What we've learned about what may have sparked it. This is The National.
Here in Venezuela, suspicion, desperation, fear, and hope all swirl around Juan Guaido. Recognized as Venezuela's interim president by Canada and dozens of other countries, to supporters of de facto President Nicolas Maduro, he's just a rogue politician. Guaido's emergence has turned Venezuela's spiraling social and economic crisis into a political one. What happens to him and his movement will dictate the next chapter in this country. Stunning, then, to think that just weeks ago, he was a little-known figure. So how does he plan to help Venezuela or even stay out of jail? The best way to find out is to just ask him. Those who say Juan Guaido is losing momentum, and there are a few, surely haven't seen the South American selfie king go to work. Here at a Caracas university to talk with farmers about how to get Venezuela feeding itself again. It's frankly flashes of Barack Obama, the way he moves and talks, especially the way the crowds respond. Si se puede, they chant. Yes, we can. Farmers throwing their full-throttled support behind this engineer by trade, not a particularly well-known politician until a few weeks ago. Now so prominent, those in the Maduro government have issued not-so-subtle threats, suggesting Guaido doesn't know what it's like to have bullets whistling by his head. This process has been hard and required sacrifice of a lot of time and a lot of people, he offers. And the thing about whistles is that we've heard whistles. We're still here. Outside the event, complete chaos. And danger, not just in the threats, just listen to this. All this frenzied attention is because the expectations of him are huge. And if so many want so much, how can he ever deliver? We stole some time alone to get a sense of how he thinks. Why do you think you haven't been arrested yet in the last couple of weeks?
Eso es una gran pregunta, yo me la he hecho. Yo me la he hecho sobre todo cuando en Venezuela hay más de 350 presos políticos, hay asesinados políticos, torturados, exilados, secuestrados, entre otras cosas.
Ultimately, he says it's because of the support of the public, the international community, and the belief that this is all constitutionally sound. What may not be sound is his plan to get humanitarian aid into Venezuela. Just look at what the Venezuelan military has done, just across from Colombia, blocking the road to block the aid. This is building up to be a serious test of loyalties. How are you going to get the aid through? Because the Venezuelan military says, no, it's not coming. So what's your plan?
Nosotros, parte de nuestra labor va a ser convencer a esos militares y generar, sí, tensión política, tensión a ellos como ciudadanos venezolanos que también tienen madres enfermas, que también tienen familiares que lo necesitan, que también tienen que atender a su familia, no solamente apelando a su conciencia, el respeto a la Constitución, sino también de hecho que tienen un rol que cumplir en este momento.
We know Canada has supported you, but there are some who don't entirely understand why. What would you say to them?
Entonces, lo que pasa en un país de la región va a pasar en todos. Porque bueno, y ustedes lo han visto en Canadá, también han visto también la calidez de los venezolanos. Han recibido una migración también importante en Toronto, en Ottawa, en Quebec y en algunas otras ciudades. Y tenemos un potencial enorme, no solamente para ayudar a la región, que nuestros recursos sirvan como palanca de desarrollo, pero también por un valor fundamental. Ustedes, como nosotros, apreciamos la libertad y la democracia y esa es nuestra lucha.
You're not afraid?
No,
So he says he's not afraid, seems quite relaxed, and projects or tries to project a lot of hope. Right now, that surely makes him unique among Venezuelans. Up until last week, Venezuela's state oil company sold a lot of its products to the United States, but then the Trump administration halted the oil purchases. The sanctions hit Venezuela almost overnight, and as Peter Armstrong explains, the impact hasn't stopped there.
These sanctions are biting deeper and more quickly than anyone expected, in large part because the Venezuelan economy is in such total disarray. Venezuela sits on the world's largest proven oil reserves. It ships about 500,000 barrels to the U.S. every day. Oil money pays for the vast majority of the nation's food supply. So U.S. officials knew they were hitting Maduro where it counts.
Today's measure totals $7 billion in assets blocked today, plus over $11 billion in lost export proceeds over the next year.
Venezuela's economy has been in shambles for years. Refineries have crumbled. So, in spite of those vast oil reserves, Venezuela imports hundreds of thousands of barrels of gasoline every day. Fuel supplies could run out within a week. That could lead to a catastrophe as diesel fuels a large part of the country's power generation. Meanwhile, the global oil market is already trying to adjust. This ship has literally been turning in circles for days. It's among dozens of oil tankers that were headed to the Gulf Coast, but can't get paid in the U.S. now.
No one seems to be, steering the overall ship of Venezuela's energy industry, and these tankers don't seem to know where they want to go.
And so the political crisis feeds off the economic crisis, and right now neither seem likely to get better. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
So curiously, what happens with those tankers that are already stuck with Venezuela's oil? It's important to remember that the U.S. sanctions target Maduro, not Guaido, so the opposition is trying to open a fund so that it can accept payment for that oil. That is it from us here in Venezuela. Rosie, I gather, though, that there is a development on this back home.
That's right, Adrian. The crisis in Venezuela continues to cause some headaches for the NDP today. After initially refusing to recognize the interim president, this week the NDP's foreign affairs critic said the party was now comfortable with Guaido. But today, Jagmeet Singh was asked again about that position, and his comments created further confusion.
Who's the president of Venezuela?
Whoever the people of Venezuela decide.
Yeah. So you're not taking a position?
I'm taking the position that the people of Venezuela have a sovereign right to make that decision, and it's our job to support the people of Venezuela in making that decision.
Singh is hoping that BC voters will give him a seat in the House of Commons, where he is running in a by-election, and that's on February 25th. As you can see, we are in a very chilly Edmonton tonight, where we've been talking with Albertans about the province's future. You'll see that a little bit later on The National, but first, more of today's news. Starting with an unusual lawsuit, a group of Canadian diplomats says the government left them in danger after strange health problems struck embassies in Cuba. Our friends at Radio-Canada spoke with some of the principals, and the CBC's Salima Shivji tells their story.
The mysterious symptoms first struck nearly 2 years ago in Havana, after many say a piercing sound rang out. 5 Canadian diplomats and their families, including 7 young children, fell ill.
I had strong nausea. I had some dizziness. Sometimes I threw up. A few times I stood up and my nose was streaming with blood.
Symptoms of a concussion without any physical blow. This diplomat says the federal government dropped the ball, didn't move fast enough to get them out. In a statement of claim filed today, they allege Canada downplayed the seriousness of the situation, hoarded and concealed critical health and safety information, and gave false, misleading, and incomplete information to diplomatic staff. Last April, Canada stopped sending diplomats with families to Havana, but only last month did it reduce its staff there by half, more than a year after the Americans did the same for their diplomats with the same symptoms.
When the U.S. was withdrawing its diplomats, Canada knew there was a problem and we didn't pull our people out. What we're looking to be compensated for is the long-term damage that's been done to the diplomats and their families. It's brain injuries and it's long-term and has a significant effect.
The Diplomats are asking for $28 million in damages. None of the allegations has been proven in court, and Ottawa has 30 days to respond with a statement of defense. Today, Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister expressed her sympathy to the families.
They were in Cuba representing us and representing our country, and their health and safety absolutely needs to be a priority.
But for those still dealing with the effects, those words ring hollow.
The delay has had a huge impact on us in terms of the stress, trying to bring our lives back to normal.
As the piercing headaches and dizziness still linger. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Ottawa.
We also have some sad news coming out of Ottawa tonight. 1 year after being diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, former NDP MP Paul Dewar has died. He was 56 years old. In announcing his death, his family released a letter written by him. It reads, in part, "In my time on this earth, I was passionate about the power of citizens working together and making a difference. I wanted a Canada where we treat our fellow citizens with the dignity, love, and respect that every one of us deserves." He ended it with these words, "Smile and play, laugh and dance, give and share. My love to you always, Paul." Today, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called Dewar one of Ottawa's most dedicated voices, referencing not only Dewar's 9 years of service as an MP, but how he responded to his diagnosis. Facing death, he started Youth Action Now, devoting what was left of his future to empowering young people to change their own. As Hannah Thibodeau shows us, that passion was part of a pattern.
My partner in life.
It was nearly a year ago. Former NDP MP Paul Dewar was diagnosed with the same brain cancer that took the life of tragically hip singer Gord Downie. Dewar and his wife Julia came to describe the diagnosis as a gift.
You move forward with what you're given, and you find a way to do it as well as you can. And that's what we've done.
You said it well. The gift is every day.
In his 9 years on Parliament Hill, Dewar gifted his time advocating for those at home and abroad.
Our heart goes out to the family, and we've lost a giant in our movement for building a better country.
It's Paul Dewar.
Dewar became an MP in 2006, taking over the riding from former NDP leader Ed Broadbent. When the NDP formed official opposition in 2011, Dewar was appointed Foreign Affairs critic. His passion for the job took him to places like northern Iraq to see the Kurdish fight against ISIS forces.
Have you been involved in establishing those humanitarian corridors to get aid to those who are trapped?
His commitment to humanitarian rights got him banned from Russia.
If speaking for human rights, speaking against the annexation of a sovereign country is going to put me on a travel ban, so be it.
Dewar lost his seat to Catherine McKenna in 2015.
You could see how much he cared about his community and how much the community cared about him.
But Dewar said losing left him with more time to spend with his family.
I love her. And I say, dormir con los angeles.
Which means sleep with the angels. And I do every night.
Hannah Thibodeau, CBC News, Ottawa.
Just after he went public with his terminal diagnosis, I had a conversation with Paul Dewar at his dining room table. A lot of it was philosophical about coming to terms with the fact that he was dying. And he explained to me then how he got to the point of seeing all of this as a gift.
When I was diagnosed, I randomly opened up this book, which is a collection of reflections from a parish priest friend of my family's, Father Corbinetti. And the title of it was A Rusty License Plate Called Trust. And the first part of that reflection was the real meaning of the word crisis is turning point. And when we have these turning points in our life, when we have loss, when we have pain, we have an opportunity to take that point and do something with it, that turning point. And I just took that and thought, this is a turning point in my life. What am I going to do with it? And I just thought, this is actually, and this is going to sound strange, but this is it's a gift that's been given to me to do something with.
A pretty extraordinary way to approach the rest of your life. We'll have more from Edmonton a little bit later, but right now, new developments in the battle against ISIS, Ian.
And Rosemary, it involves a bold prediction from Donald Trump. He made it at a meeting of the global coalition to defeat ISIS, which includes Canada. The U.S. president said the last pockets of the terror group will be defeated in Syria within days, and that it's safe to pull American troops out. Trouble is, even Trump himself admits ISIS could regroup. So, as Paul Hunter reports, he's calling on other nations to step up.
Forgive all of the foreign ministers and senior officials of the 79 countries making up the coalition that's been fighting ISIS for today, perhaps wondering, now what? Because as they gathered in Washington to consider next steps, that fight is about to get more complicated, even with its successes.
It should be formally announced sometime, probably next week, that we will have 100% of the caliphate.
Donald Trump underlined for them why, in his view, there's no longer a need for the 2,000 U.S. troops in that fight, troops Trump has pledged to soon withdraw.
Nobody thought it was possible to do it this quickly.
Trump's decision in December to pull back U.S. troops caught the world by surprise, including those in his own military. It led in part to the resignation of then Defense Secretary James Mattis. And even yesterday on Capitol Hill, this acknowledgement from Leonard Votel, head of the U.S. Central Command.
You weren't consulted before that decision was announced.
We were not. I was not consulted.
For Trump, it fulfills a long-standing pledge to reduce America's footprint abroad, and it plays well in many parts of the country. But for ISIS, say many, including again those in Trump's military, it's a gift. ISIS may have had its territory diminished, but the belief is that many of its fighters are now simply laying low, waiting for U.S. troops to depart before, potentially, a resurgence. The U.S. suggests that it is not fully abandoning the fight, but said coalition partners will now be asked to do more.
The fight is one that we will continue to wage alongside of you. The drawdown of troops is essentially a tactical change. It is not a change in the mission.
Said Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland tonight, Canada's role in that region remains far from over.
Canada, which is leading the NATO training mission in Iraq, is very focused on the fact that having won the war, it is absolutely essential to win the peace.
And Paul, you mentioned a possible ISIS resurgence. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, well, you know, when Trump talks about getting to 100%, he's talking about the amount of land in Syria no longer under ISIS control. He's not talking about ISIS fighters. A British group that watches this stuff carefully estimates there are still between 4,000 and 5,000 ISIS fighters hiding in caves and mountains, watching and waiting, and, by the way, still fighting. They're said to have killed nearly 200 people there since August. Even the U.S. Defense Department has warned Trump that ISIS could stage a resurgence within 6 to 12 months if military pressure against it eases up. As Chrystia Freeland noted, there's still work to be done.
The CBC's Paul Hunter in Washington. Thank you.
Right.
Canada has played an active role in the anti-ISIS coalition for more than 4 years now, but the shape of that contribution has changed.
President Obama has requested a commitment of Canadian military advisors.
It started with advisors to Iraq in 2014, but quickly became an air mission in Iraq and then Syria. Canada conducting a total of 251 airstrikes before Justin Trudeau ended the bombing mission in 2016.
It's extremely important to remain active members of the coalition.
A Canadian refueling aircraft stayed on in Iraq until last month, but on the ground, Canada's train, advise, and assist mission in northern Iraq has marched on, at times with more than 800 troops, some involved in occasional firefights with ISIS. That mission is up for review at the end of next month.
Now we have to rebuild that democracy and strengthen it.
Trudeau also made a separate commitment to NATO, 250 troops and 4 Griffin helicopters dispatched to Baghdad. They'll be there for at least another year. But to all this, Trump's pullback adds an element of uncertainty. There is no telling how the ISIS threat will evolve.
Ahead tonight from Edmonton, Premier Rachel Notley takes questions from Albertans and many of you. We tackle pipelines, politics, and the Prime Minister. The national conversation is still ahead.
And it smells so bad in St. Mary's, Newfoundland, they're wearing face masks, and they say they're concerned about their health. But ahead of that, 15 players, 2 head coaches benched after a brawl on the ice, and the investigation is not over.
Spears just came into the circle and started punching.
In the comment, the word rapist was used. You know, obviously that has a tremendous amount of impact, and we don't take that comment lightly at all.
A development today in the story of that weekend hockey brawl involving 2 university teams from Nova Scotia, Acadia and St. FX. Even in a sport where fighting is common, many people say what happened here and what caused it crossed the line. Now the governing body, Atlantic University Sport, has suspended not just players but coaches too. Tom Murphy has the details.
Spears just came into the circle and started punching.
To spectators, it may have just looked like goon hockey, a bench brawl with players and coaches all in the melee. Now, evidence of how it may have started, an alleged derogatory comment by an Acadia player.
In the comment, the word rapist was used. So, to a victim of sexual assault, you know, I mean, obviously that has a tremendous amount of impact, and we don't take that comment lightly at all.
This is ugly.
The allegation is that the comment was alluding to the survivor of a sexual assault, who we can't identify, but who is not a player on the team. In a statement today, Acadia says its player has since apologized for a comment that, in the university's words, was not made deliberately. But St. FX player Sam Studnicka says the on-ice taunting has been happening for years. In a statement earlier this week, he said, "It has taken an emotional toll on me. There is no place for such comments within our society." Studnicka says his teammates were just sticking up for him.
In our process, it's important that we hear both sides of the issue.
When it was done, 15 players, 9 from St. FX and 6 from Acadia, along with both head coaches, received hockey suspensions for the brawl. But now there are questions about why AUS and the universities involved didn't do more to address the similar, festering allegations from 2 years ago. Acadia insists it did. Others wonder if a long-time staple of Canadian hockey culture, chirping, has simply gone too far.
Potentially, you know, this is related to a cultural issue and not acceptable in the university environment.
A secondary review is coming and possibly more sanctions, which could include expulsion of players and coaches from the hockey programs. Tonight, Acadia was back in action, albeit with a reduced roster and university hockey with a black eye. Tom Murphy, CBC News, Halifax.
Up next on The National, we'll be back from Edmonton with the national conversation. We put some of your questions about the future of Alberta directly to the Premier. This question has come up a number of times. Zaheen Sarabi says the same. Do you feel you made a mistake to trust the Prime Minister? You say you will stand up for Alberta, but not once have you done it.
Well, I guess I'm going to take a little bit of an issue with that.
This is my home. This is my town.
Many of these people have planned for the boom in bus cycles. It's just going on too long this time.
Every month there'll be another bankruptcy. There's another person close their doors.
They're saying that their savings are depleted. They're starting to use credit, and that's starting to run out as well.
Lots of people left. The big money left.
As much as I hate to say it, I don't think we've seen the worst of it.
We need to move this oil. This is our livelihood.
We got to get our message to somebody that can listen to us.
They don't understand what we're up against.
Canada's got to get together rather than work apart.
Therefore, my question is,
I would like to know,
what do you plan to do?
How are you going to?
Is the government aware of?
What is your government doing to make the next generation successful?
Do you think it's possible that this situation can be corrected?
This week, The National is digging into the challenges facing Alberta, from the low price of Canadian crude and production cuts to stalled pipelines. So we came here to Edmonton to listen to people's frustrations and to find out what they want for the future of the province. We put some of their questions, some of your questions, to Premier Rachel Notley last night.
Hello.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you for making the time. Please have a seat. I'm gonna tease her first because she walked to work this morning and looked totally frozen.
It was fresh and sun came out, so you know that's the thing about Alberta winters.
Brave
sky.
Okay, thank you for being here. Lots of people have questions, lots of questions online for you as well. We are trying to understand some of the frustration in the province. Canadians are trying to understand, so let me get right to it. Barb Peary is asking on Facebook, what does the Premier say or think about the derailment that happened near Field, BC? 3 people died in that derailment. It wasn't shipping oil, fortunately, but you are looking to buy rail cars. You want to ship more by rail because you don't have a pipeline. So what do you think of the fact that that accident happened at all?
Well, I mean, let me start, of course, by offering my and on behalf of the people of Alberta the condolences to the families of the workers that died in that crash. I mean, it's a tragedy, and quite frankly, everything that we can do to promote safety in the workplace is something that we should do. That's not red tape. That's good management, and that's the right thing to do.
Does it give you pause, though, when you are looking for leasing thousands of rail cars? Does it give you pause?
Well, you know, I think we all know, quite frankly, that pipelines are the safest way to move oil and gas products through Canada. We all know that. That's why we've been fighting since day one of our government, certainly, to get more pipelines built, and in particular to get a pipeline to Tidewater. We all know that many goods are shipped each and every day on rail throughout the country, but we've come to a point where, after decades of failures on the part of successive federal governments, we haven't got the pipelines built. We're in a position now in Alberta where we've had to take the unprecedented step of pulling back on production in order to bring back the price that we get in Alberta, to bring it back up for this product. And that is an unsustainable situation. It's a non-economic situation. It has consequences. People are hurt by that decision too. And it's a function of our country not working the way it should when it comes to the simple act of moving important products from one place to another so that people who want to buy them can. The fact of the matter is this: the incredible quality of life that each and every Canadian enjoys in this country is in large part due to Canada's energy industry, our resource industry, and in particular, the oil and gas industry here in Alberta. And so when we're unable to do that thing in a way that is economically and strategically smart, then everybody suffers. So we're talking to Albertans here, but it actually has consequences across this country.
I mean, if it was a simple thing, though, you would have the pipeline already, so it's not a simple thing. But I want to talk about the people. Lola Strand is in the audience and has a question, but we have some of her backstory first. So here's Lola.
Sure.
My name is Lola Strand. I was born and raised in Drayton Valley, as were my parents, so I have really strong roots here. The last 13 years, I've been employed with Drayton Valley District Family Community Support Services. What we have noticed over the last specifically couple of years is that the folks that are coming in looking for resources are those people who never imagined that they would ever be in the position to be looking for supports that way. They are the folks that are losing their jobs due to the downturn in the economy. So despite the fact that many of these people have planned for the boom and bust cycles that we do go through in our community, it's just going on too long this time. Their savings are depleted, they're starting to use credit, and that's starting to run out as well. Unfortunately, lots of people are saying right now that they may have no choice but actually move away from this community and possibly move away from Alberta, which is really sad because many of these people, this is their home and they've been here all their life.
Lola's in the audience. Thank you for coming, Lola. And you have a question for the Premier.
My question for you is, what can you do to ensure that people can remain in their communities in Drayton Valley and in Alberta and not have to leave the communities that they've been in for most of their lives?
Well, thank you, Lola, for that question. I know that folks across the province are really struggling as a result of the unprecedented drop in the price of oil. And so there's a lot of things. Obviously, the first thing that, and I think everyone agrees, is we have to get this pipeline built in order to bring back the opportunity to get a better price for the product and to bring more investment back to Alberta and to put folks back to work there. We have a number of economic diversification programs specifically geared to smaller communities. The CARES program, we have about 200 programs that we have funded since we introduced that to support small business and entrepreneurial folks in these communities. But I know that in places like Drayton Valley and other communities that rely so much on our oil and gas sector, we have to work with those municipal leaders, with those community leaders to find ways to support them in other diversification efforts. And it's slow going. We've had some starting successes, but we know there's more to do.
Okay. Debbie Golden, though, asked this question, and she wants a yes or no. We'll see. I like how Debbie Golden thinks, though. Would you withhold transfer payments until the pipeline happens?
Well, I think one of the things we have to do is make sure that we're all fully aware of the way these things work. I mean, transfer payments are not a payment that we write, that the government of Alberta writes the check. Transfer payments are what happens when across the country, the people and the corporations that make the most pay the most tax.
You can't withhold them.
So
is that what you're saying?
So it's people are the ones who are paying their taxes. But she highlights a very important point, which I want to take this opportunity, presumably to a national audience, to highlight, which is this, that there are 4 provinces in the country where collectively the people and the businesses, through their corporate taxes or their income tax, pay more to the federal government than they receive back. One of those provinces is Saskatchewan, and roughly on a per capita basis, they pay about $330 a year to the federal government than they get back. The other 2 provinces are BC and Ontario, and roughly each of them pays about $1,200 a month on a per capita basis more to Ottawa than they get back. In Alberta, that number is about $5,300 per capita more to Ottawa than we get back. So what that says to me is that all Canadians rely on Alberta to do well. There is not a school, there is not a hospital, there is not a road, there's not a port, my friends, in any part of this country that doesn't owe part of its existence to the people of Alberta and the prosperity that is driven by our energy industry.
Another video question.
Welcome to Oilfield Dads. I'm so glad you made it. My name is Chad Miller, and I'm a founder of a social media networking group called Oilfield Dads. I built this group for those in need of support to find jobs, share stories, and overcome hardships in way of solidarity for the oil and gas industry. Thanks, and have a great day. My question for you, Premier Notley, is how are you going to convince Alberta and the rest of Canada that your government will cater no more to the false promises from the federal government, and finally, stand up and fight for those regular hard-working Albertans?
So I have to say, this is online an overwhelming sentiment. This question has come up a number of times. Zaheen Sarabi says the same. Do you feel you made a mistake to trust the Prime Minister? You say you will stand up for Alberta, but not once have you done it.
Well, I guess I'm going to take a little bit of an issue with that, because I think that we have been standing up for Alberta since day one. We have been pushing for this pipeline since day one. I, like all Albertans, like everybody in this room, I'm sure, are very frustrated with the decision that we got in August, which delayed what otherwise was a pipeline under construction for the first time in almost 70 years in the country of Canada. So, but that is the federal courts, and that is not a thing that I can fight against. When it comes to pushing the federal government, there is no question that Canada works best when we all work together. And I've already talked a little bit about some of the ways in which we've been pushing the federal government, creating a much better level of awareness from coast to coast to coast about why this is important. Talking to groups in other parts of the country that historically didn't support pipelines, so not just going into roomfuls of high-level investment financiers in Eastern Canada, but going and talking to rooms full of environmentalists as well to talk about it. And through them, pushing the federal government. And let me also say to Albertans, a big thank you to them. Because it's not just us, it's each and every Albertan reaching across those mountains, talking to their brothers, their sisters, their in-laws, their union members from other unions, their business colleagues, making that case, and that's how we're moving the dial, and we're going to keep doing it.
Okay, lots of people asking this one. Why do you still support the carbon tax? You have pulled out of the federal plan to increase it over time, so you've just stayed where you are, which I think is $30 a ton. Is that where you're at?
Yep.
Why do you still support it at all? People want to know.
Well, because the bottom line is this. We are an energy leader in Alberta, and we have been for a long time, and I think we're going to be for a long time going forward. But we are not going to retain that position if we try to pretend that climate change is not an issue. What we need to do is be the most progressive, most sustainable energy producer in the world.
So what's the advantage the carbon tax gives you then?
Oh, well, it gives us the resources to do that, and it also is, according to the Nobel Prize givers, the best economic model to get the job done. So we are, again, we're not going to succeed if we build an economy based on looking back 20 years. We are going to succeed if we figure out where the puck is going and get there before then.
Okay, there's one last question that everyone in the audience, I'm sure, has. Everyone on social media has. People want to know when you're going to call the election. Like, should we think sort of like Easter? Would that be like a convenient time?
Yeah. Okay, so it will be on a day. It won't be dark out. And it will, unlike sort of previous governments that were not the NDP, it will actually follow the law, which is sometime between March 1st and May 30th.
Yeah. Never ask that question of politicians because they never answer it. These are not easy things for politicians to do because they don't know what's coming at them, so we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, the Premier and I weren't the only ones on stage. We also invited some people who know firsthand what it's like to live and work in Alberta right now, and the audience had questions for them as well.
My name is Fred Kerr. Before I started doing comedy, I was an institutional stockbroker. My question is, what do you plan to do to attract private sector investment back to this province?
Well, we've seen it, I think, in spades in Alberta in terms of reduced activity. They're too frustrated dealing in Canada, which is not a statement I'm happy to say as a proud Canadian. But not only are we getting reduced foreign investment in Canada, Canadian companies themselves are starting to look elsewhere because it's just too frustrating.
I do think getting market access for our gas and oil is a critical step to bring investment dollars back here, because as it stands now, investors don't have to invest in Canada, they can invest anywhere. And with these differentials and with market access issues, it's a lot of uncertainty. Why would you put your dollars here? And they're not.
You can watch the full national conversation with Premier Rachel Notley and our panelists online. Look for it on CBC Gem or the National's Facebook page and YouTube channel.
That was all really interesting to watch. Up next on The National, we'll take you to a small town in Newfoundland where people are afraid of what's in the air.
We have a lot of walkers go up and down this street, and they haven't got those on, but this is the way they go up and down the street here.
First it was a snowstorm, then sub-zero temperatures. Now parts of southern Ontario are dealing with freezing rain and ice pellets.
Pretty miserable and pretty slushy and pretty slippery.
Frustrated. Frustrated is a good word for it.
Grin and bear it, I guess.
The conditions force some students just outside Toronto to stay home. It's the third time in the last 2 weeks one school board has canceled classes because of the weather. Canada Post suspended mail delivery, and 400 flights were canceled at Pearson. Periods of freezing rain are expected to continue until the morning. Incredibly, no one was hurt when a gas line exploded in San Francisco today. The initial damage was caused by an excavator, and the fire quickly spread to a nearby restaurant. At least 5 buildings were burned before the gas line was turned off. All 3 of the state of Virginia's top officials are now embroiled in scandals. Attorney General Mark Herring today admitted that he appeared in blackface at a costume party when he was 19. The governor is admitted to wearing blackface at a talent show in the 80s. Over the past few days, he's changed his stories and he is resisting calls to resign. If he did, he'd be succeeded by the lieutenant governor, this man who's facing a sexual assault claim. Now to a small town in Newfoundland with a serious problem on its hands and in its nose. This is about fish sauce. Vats of the stuff. Stinking, rotten fish sauce. It's the leftovers from a plant shuttered years ago, and as the CBC's Jen White explains, residents are demanding that something be done about it.
When the grandkids come over, I don't want them out into this, I call it a toxic environment. This is what they wear on their faces. We can't let them be breathing this in. We're not sure what we're breathing in here yet.
Juliet Sis Lee lives across the street from a seafood sauce plant that's been rotting away for years.
At its worst point, if you go out there, you'll throw up. You will throw up.
The Atlantic Seafood Sauce Company opened in 1990. The owners were hoping to tap into a lucrative North American market for a Vietnamese-style seafood sauce.
You see something new, something product new, nobody know, and even we put an advertisement, nobody bothered to look into it.
The plant had 150 containers filled with fish and salt, left to ferment for years, until it turned into a liquid that would be bottled for sale. But 4 years after it opened, the owner said federal regulations were killing the project. In the early 2000s, more trouble. Operations at the plant were suspended after issues with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. The owner shut the doors and is believed to have left the country. The tanks filled with seafood sauce have been sitting here for more than 15 years.
This takes our breath here, the smell right here. The tanks are still leaking some liquid down, but now it's running on the floor. So now it's 2, 3, 4 inches thick all over the floor, which is making the smell worse.
Muriel and John Whalen live just up the road from the building.
What does it smell like?
Well, rotten egg smells good to it. I'll take your breath.
But it's not just the smell. They're worried about their health.
They had to wear a suit and everything to go in there, right? And they said, well, it was to protect our people. And I said, our workers. And I said, what about us? What are we?
The town of St. Mary's and the Newfoundland and Labrador government did try to tackle this before. Back in 2012, the province tried to contact the company's owner, but failed to track him down.
3 years ago, a waste management plan was developed, but after complaints about the contractor, the work was stopped. Nothing has happened at the site since. The town has found a company that's willing to clean it up at a cost of $700,000.
What he told me kind of scared me. He said for no rodents to be here, it kind of means there's something toxic.
The town has applied to the province for financial help, but it still won't be enough to cover the cleanup. Jen White, CBC News, St. Mary's, Newfoundland and Labrador.
Up next on The National, Paul Dewar defined public service, dedicating his career to helping others. We'll hear his take on life in our moment.
I know we've all in our culture talked about the fact that, death is going to happen, but we also avoid it when we can, right? I mean, we all are going to die, right? And so it's a matter of what we do with this life we have.
Paul Dewar approached death the same way he approached life, with courage and the desire to do good no matter what. As we told you earlier in the program, the former NDP MP died this morning after battling terminal brain cancer. I had the chance to speak with him last June at his home in Ottawa, and tonight we wanted to give him the last word in our moment.
What you're having to do is to face death and walk back into life. And I know we've all in our culture talked about the fact that, death is going to happen, but we also avoid it when we can, right? Yeah. And I've held on to that because it's so true. And that's the gift part. I mean, we all are going to die, right? And so it's a matter of what we do with this life we have. And so that the timelines may be a little earlier than you might have thought. but you now walk back into life and you can decide how that's going to work. I really would just like to have more time with those two guys and Julia. And if I could steal more of that time, and I hopefully will, that's what I will.
Rosemary, was so moving and so impressive to hear what he had to say when your interview originally ran, and of course even more so tonight. But what are your reflections?
You know, the only thing probably that Paul loved as much as his family is the city of Ottawa, and he dedicated his life to making that city great and to giving back to this country. And I hope that his family takes some comfort tonight in knowing what a difference he made to so many people. He was just a lovely person. And that is The National for this Wednesday, February 6th. Thanks for watching, everybody. Good night.
Good night.